Violence returns once again to the Middle East. Hostilities have once again made an appearance in one of the hottest and most strategic areas in the world. We are talking about the direct conflict between Israel and Iran that has exploded into the air after Iran bombed the ground. Israeli with a combination of cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and drones. However, I'm sure you already know this. What you may not know is, why is all this happening? Where does all this conflict come from? Why is Israel and Iran our irreconcilable enemies? And what's going on? What's going to happen from now on? So make yourselves comfortable. I'm telling you right now, to understand this story, we have to go back a little bit in history, specifically to the birth of the State of Israel in 1948. At that time, Israel had plenty of enemies that basically, they were all the Arab countries around it. We are talking about countries like Egypt, Jordan, Syria, or Iraq. However, at that time, Iran was not among the list of the greatest enemies of Israel. In fact, under the reign of Sam Muhammad, Red Pabi Iran maintained a neutral position, even cordial towards the new Jewish state, and here the saying that the enemy of my enemy is my friend was fulfilled. And what was happening was precisely that. Both countries shared enemies. However, these relations began to crack over time, especially as the political winds in Iran began to change the Iranian population, increasingly dissatisfied with his authoritarianism and its proximity to the West, began to gravitate towards the so-called revolutionaries, led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. However, overnight everything changed in 1979. The Iranian population, fed up with the authoritarianism and corruption of the government, broke out and an Islamic revolution began, in which the Ayatollahs took power, proclaiming the Islamic Republic of Iran. And if you are wondering who the Ayatollahs were, well, high-ranking Shiite clerics they rejected the westernization of Iranian society and sought a return to traditional Islamic laws. Here it is important to understand that the SA was an ally of the United States, who was going to tell us today that Iran could be an ally of the United States. But yes, it was, and of course, that is something that the Ayatollahs were not willing to consent to. So what was said, the Ayatollahs led by the very famous Khomeini throughout the SA, took power and changed Iran completely by establishing a theocracy to review. A theocracy is a system of government where the in charge of presiding over the nation, the empire or kingdom, is a religious leader such as a prophet or priest. Later Yemen adopted an openly hostile stance towards Israel, marking a 180-degree gyro in Iranian foreign policy. This change was not only rhetorical, it was translated into concrete actions, such as the closure of the Israeli embassy in Tehran and the opening of a Palestinian embassy. The message was clear: zero, deal with the Jews. Khomeini himself called Israel an enemy of Islam and a problem. Previous relations between Iran and Israel included military cooperation, sale of oil, and agricultural projects. With the revolution, these ties were cut. Iran closed the communication channels with Israel and began to develop a strategy that it continues to this day, which consists of financing and supporting anyone who wants to harm Israel. In this way, Iran turned to support movements and groups opposed to Israel, such as the Organization for the Liberation of Palestine, the PLO, and later Hezbollah in Lebanon, with whom Israel fought a war in 2006. Iran also supported Never and the Islamic Jihad in Gaza, with whom Israel has been beating since the late 1980s, or the Bashar al-Assad regime in Syria. Israel has carried out numerous airstrikes in Syria directed against Iranian and Hezbollah forces, with the aim of preventing Iran from establishing a land corridor towards Lebanon and position advanced weaponry near its borders. For its part, Israel has not sat idly aside from trying to weaken the Iranian groups throughout the region as much as possible. Israel is also rumored to be doing everything possible to weaken the Ayatollah regime. In fact, Israel has been accused of supporting opposition groups within Iran and its surroundings. Another battlefield has been cyber warfare and espionage, with both countries launching cyber attacks against each other's critical infrastructure and information systems. But yes, there is something that has caused tensions above the rest of things. It has been the Iranian nuclear program, which is understandable after the multiple occasions in which the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has said that Israel will be destroyed. The fact is that during this century, Iran has made considerable progress in uranium enrichment, and it seems that although it is possible that Iran does not yet have them, it is very close to being able to produce nuclear weapons. Israel and the West have tried by all means to stop this nuclear program by applying severe sanctions against Iran, and even delayed it for several years using a computer virus known as ESTN, that I believe to have been jointly developed between Israel and the United States. Israel has also been accused by Iran of being behind the murder of several Iranian nuclear scientists over the years. By last but not least, there have also been several explosions and acts of sabotage within Iran that have affected its nuclear and military infrastructure. For example, in July 2020, an explosion significantly damaged the Natanz Uranus enrichment facility in Iran. Although Israel did not confirm its participation, it is very possible that Tel Aviv was behind it. So, among one thing and another, as time has passed, relations between Iran and Israel have gotten worse. Focusing on Edom, Iran has bombed the ground again. Israeli Day, October 7, 2023. The moment in which it carried out its attack on Israel, in which Israelis died, and in which several civilians were taken hostage, and as everyone knows by now, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded to this attack with an iron fist, starting a bombing campaign and a ground offensive against ever in Gaza that has hit the organization very hard. Well, Iran has done everything possible to defend its Palestinian allies, and that included mobilizing all its allies that make up the axis of resistance. We talk about the Yemen Houthis and the Iraqi Shiite militias. The tension between Israel and Iran has increased to unimaginable moments in recent months. Let us remember that Iran is governed by Islamic theocracy, and that Israel has a nationalist government, and that in recent decades, this kind of unwritten pact, not to attack each other directly, but it would change on April 1, 2024, when the Israeli Air Force bombed a building attached to the Iranian embassy in Damascus. At a time when a top-level military meeting was being held, the attack left 16 dead, among which was the head of the Quds forces, Mohammad Reza Zaheidi, and 7 other officers. In case you don't know, the Quds forces are elite forces of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard in charge of carrying out missions outside Iran, such as logical after the attack and the death of the beloved Iranian general, the Ayatollah's promised revenge. And although it seemed that finally the Iranian response could have been forgiven in exchange for a ceasefire in Gaza, but Iran has ended up responding, we must also remember that being a theocracy, Iran believes firmly, according to the Islamic eschatology, that Israel must be by not living as the Prophet Muhammad has ordered according to the scriptures of the Muslims, which will make it difficult to reach a truce for the moment. But what do you think? Do you consider that a peace treaty with the United States would be enough? Let me know in the comment box.